Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw with Insider Travel Report, and I'm here with David Harris, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Ensemble Travel Group, one of the largest agency cooperatives in North America. And we wanted to talk to him a little bit about what's going on with Ensemble and his members during the COVID crisis. And we're going to find out about all that and more on Insider Travel Report. Now, David, first of all, how are your members sort of surviving through this crisis? Have you had any closures, or are they getting through the initial weeks?
Thanks, James, for inviting me on today. And look, it's an unprecedented, difficult time. It's safe to say that at this point, really everyone's in survival mode. And I think the greatest challenge is that we just have way more questions than we do have answers for at this point. In terms of closures, I'm not being made aware of that at this point. I mean, other than the fact that most of the agency members are indeed closed, their businesses closed, or their shops are closed, and most of them are working remotely, just as we at Ensemble are doing at this point.
Well, and of course, you've said you've had to make some changes at your Ensemble HQ, at least in New York, where you've had to furlough some employees, at least over the course of the crisis. Is that right?
You know, never an easy decision, James. But what's important at this time, as I said in the opening comment, is this is about survival, and whether it's an agency or whether it's the consortia business or the suppliers, no matter what the vertical at this point, everybody is doing what they need to do to sustain themselves in the long haul. So indeed, we furloughed 50% of our staff, both combined Canada and the US. Difficult decisions, and I certainly hope that we can call people back sooner rather than later. There are signs in the industry that are challenging for us in terms of when we think that might be, as the cruise lines push out their return to operations and different tour operators do the same, and airlines also. I think it's safe to say, it's unfortunate, and I am a glass half full guy, believe me. I think it's safe to say, though, that we're measuring this in terms of months right now, and the reality is that our industry is very likely to see a greater lag in terms of a return to, call it, steady state or new normal than most other industries, if not all other industries. But the two things that drive us are consumer confidence and the availability of discretionary income, and both are at record level lows. Discretionary income, of course, not being a reality with all of the layoffs and slowdowns, and people out of a job at this point in time. Couple that with record high personal debt levels. That's something we've heard of for some time. So those are negative influences on the reality of us returning in the very near future. That said, I don't want to be a completely negative guy on all this. There will absolutely be a whiplash effect. There will be people who are craving travel and craving it in the near term. But the reality is this is going to take some time, and I think everybody is becoming increasingly more aware of that with each day.
Now, you also announced recently that you were going to sort of shut down your Australia and New Zealand operations. Was this connected with the coronavirus crisis, or was this something you've been thinking about doing before that?
Look, really appreciate that ask, and I think we may have even discussed that. I can't recall specifically, but when we last were on camera in Seattle in October. But we've worked for over 5 years to try and develop that market for our benefit and for the benefit of those members. And it just was, after nearly a 5-year effort, it just was not yielding the results that we wanted. It was not a result of coronavirus. This is something that we've been very carefully monitoring and evaluating for some time, and the decision was actually made in late January at a board meeting, and then it's been implemented. The closure will actually take place the end of April this month.
Now, let's get back to what Ensemble, even though you are working with a smaller staff, what Ensemble is doing for its members during the crisis. I know there's a number of different initiatives that you've come out with, and let's talk about some of those.
Normally we were small and mighty, and now we're smaller and mightier. But I'd say a number of things that we're very diligent with at this time. Certainly, on the communication side, we've spent a lot of time and effort ensuring that our member portal is not just current but helpful for our members. So we have input from a variety of sources, whether it's different teams within the organization, supplier relations, or business development team, our marketing efforts, and all of these are combining or collaborating with one another to really provide tools and meaningful assistance for the members. We're sending out a weekly CEO message from myself with industry updates and information on everything from relief programs that are available to creating a sense of community for our members. We've implemented a hashtag Ensemble Strong Facebook group where it's an open forum for our members to share ideas and inspire each other despite the obvious challenges of this time. And of course, we have ongoing webinars and programs that are available to the membership. So those are a few things kind of on the communication side of things. I would share that on the advocacy side, I can't speak highly enough for how much ASTA has led, and ACTA is absolutely stepping up as well. But ASTA what they've done for our industry, I mean, never before has the ticketing agent side or the travel agency side of our industry been a benefactor of funding at a federal level. Mm-hmm. It's always been the airlines, the more significant suppliers, which I appreciate and understand. But ASTA's credit, they have been absolutely rock solid in their efforts, and they're now just off a call in the last hour where we have been speaking with the Consortia Advisory Committee of ASTA and talking about trying to standardize the terms and conditions with our supplier partners for the processing of refunds and their positions relative to recall commissions and a number of other elements. So on an advocacy level, working very hard to ensure that there is some degree of consistency, or to the degree possible, with our members with our supplier partners.
So, and I think you also done some consumer campaigns underscoring the value of working with a professional travel advisor.
We have. There've been a number of marketing specifics. So I'd spoken really about some of the communication related efforts, and I'll go back to advocacy in a couple of minutes here. But on the marketing side, we've adapted most of our efforts currently from print to digital. Mm-hmm. We've done a significant development for social media campaigns, and these are they're designed for their ease of use and implementation by our members, as opposed to having to make it complicated and not oversimplifying things. But the reality is that it can become a little overwhelming for a lot of people who are less familiar with developing these types of things. So we've taken the initiative to do that. We're inspiring members to pivot their marketing and adapt to our current situation. We know that we have to, and our members must stay in contact with their clients. As much as we may not be promoting as much on the product side at this time, we still need to promote the value of our relationship to them. So that's what a large part of the focus has been. But we have multi-supplier direct-to-consumer emails. We have, as mentioned, customizable social media campaigns. We have created some new inspirational content to hopefully spark some meaningful conversations and to promote booking future travel. We have customizable ad campaigns that have been done to spark, not to spark meaningful conversations, but rather that will be rolling out in coming weeks. And then lastly, we have a consumer campaign that includes video highlights and the benefits of working with advisors, as you touched on.
Now, how can we as a travel industry emerge from this crisis, and specifically the travel agency business? And when do you expect or even hope to see some signs of recovery?
So that is the biggest question that I absolutely do not have an answer for, and I wish I did. And I don't know anyone who has an answer. If you look at the varying startup dates or relaunch dates for many of our supplier partners, whether they be cruise or land-based or even airlines, there are a variety of guess points. So rather than embellish that, and being a solution-focused person, what I'll share with you is what we are doing as an organization and trying to inspire a highly collaborative effort. It'll be led by ASTA. We're working very closely with them right now to develop a program that will address misperceptions by consumers, but also to educate consumers. So, of course, a piece like this is going to be very industry-centric, and industry-focused, but we need to be consumer-focused. Instead of watching drug commercials between the latest ravings at the White House. Sorry, I'm not sure I'm supposed to say that, but I've said it.
That's okay.
I don't think I'm alone in that thought, but I'd love to see, and we need to see industry figureheads, industry leaders, and people representing all verticals of our industry. So whether it's airlines, cruise lines, tour operators, hoteliers, agencies, agents, consortia, press, and even associations. I think there's so much that we can do, and I'll give you one specific example. I mean, it's unbelievable how well our cruise line partners have stood up, and I'll use Princess as an example. They became the scapegoats for this whole mess with the Diamond Princess, and how they've led, how they've addressed the challenge, how they've led with their wallet is beyond commendable. And many other cruise lines have done similarly, and even in terms of offering up their ships for use as hospitals. But how ludicrous that consumer perception right now is that cruise ships are unsanitary. We've got cruise lines offering them to be hospitals. You've seen productions that have been done by some of the cruise lines in terms of what their efforts have been to remediate or to clean and sanitize some of these ships. Really, their efforts have been unbelievable. So I think what's important is that as an industry, we need to deal with these types of misperceptions and embark on educating consumers. Look, let's face it, navigating the world of travel is not an easy thing to do. We have people that are confused by the difference between an OTA, an online travel agency, or bricks and mortar versus perhaps host agencies with a large number of independent contractors. Things like this would go a long way to helping consumers better understand and understanding terms and conditions. Why are they different from an airline to a cruise line to a hotelier? But educating the consumer, I think this is the time that we need to do that. Not brand-centric. This is about promoting our industry to consumers and truly making sure that they are ready to book travel when travel is open for them to book.
Yeah, and especially now because a lot of consumers are sitting home online, so they're kind of ready to get educated, I think. And that goes to the question, when do you think travel advisors what should they do to prepare for the eventual recovery of the business?
So look, the first and the most important thing, James, without a doubt, is they have to stay in touch with them. Even though consumers we're not able to bring them as much product at this time as they might like. There's still plenty of product out there that can be offered. And as mentioned, there's going to be a bit of a whiplash or a rebound approach when things do launch. The question is, how sustainable is that in the longer term? It will be sustainable because everyone will be focused on doing this. There's going to be some attrition in the industry, whether it's on the distribution side or whether it's on the supplier side, and that's sad, and I really am saddened by that. But those that are focused on surviving will survive. In terms of what the advisors can be doing and should be doing, stay in touch with your customer base. Use social media. Use the different tools that are available from in this case, Ensemble, of course, but use the tools. There are multiple examples of what can and should be done. So don't be shy about it. If you don't know how to do those things, now's the time to learn how to do them.
Yeah, you have time, that's for sure. Now, just sort of pie in the sky type of thing, but how different do you think the travel business, and in particular the travel agency business, will it look later this year and well into 2021 and even 2022?
I think the biggest, that is a great question. And I think for me personally, and I think the industry at large, this is why we're not getting back to this new normal or this steady state as soon as we'd like. And it's not necessarily a fault of the industry as much as it is who I like to blame more these days, not World Health Organization, although they play a part in it. But I really think that what hasn't been addressed to this point is how travel is going to be changed in the coming months and years. And this is what needs to be addressed right now. So for instance, it would be unconscionable for us to think that we could board a plane, embark on a ship, or check into a hotel, resort or otherwise, without some form of additional monitoring or validation by the source, by the business that's allowing someone to travel there. So just as was the case post 9/11, when the world woke up to the need to improve security standards, not just for airlines and travel in airports, but rather in many places around the world. I think we need to accept the fact, and we need to start hearing about how these changes are going to be implemented, what types of refinements are going to be made that will improve the overall experience. So for instance, and this isn't intended to be discriminatory by any way, shape, or form, but the reality is that the challenge in getting on a ship is not that they're a petri dish. They become a petri dish when the people boarding have not been properly scrutinized or analyzed for potential challenges. So it could be as simple as the thermal scanner. That would be at least something. Boarding an airplane, seeing those used in airports, at least then a consumer can say, well, look, the airline's at least trying to do something, or the cruise line or the hotelier. But in the absence of those types of initiatives, and obviously in some instances those types of initiatives will need to be more significant. If you're going on a 20-day cruise or a 30 or a 60-day round-the-world cruise, there are going to have to be more significant steps taken. And perhaps for those in different demographic brackets, either with underlying illness or of a certain age demographic, maybe they require some kind of medical clearance prior to travel. It creates a whole ripple effect of different challenges for the industry. What if they're standing there and then they're denied boarding? How do they get home? Do they have to pay for the return home? I mean, there are nuances, but I think all those things can be figured out. The reality is if people don't have these types of things addressed, and if they board a ship, a plane, get into a hotel, and someone else becomes ill, we all know in today's world that there will be other guests in those places who will be quick to launch lawsuits against the provider of that travel in the interest of some self-gain. And companies just can't afford that. So things have to happen. General public needs to be made aware of what those are, and we as an industry need to be made aware of what those are. So I think that's, before I could answer when we're going to get back to what that new normal is, we need to have at least some definition or some outlines to some of those realities.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I think both airlines and cruise lines, especially cruise lines, are going to have to put in whole new procedures. And it isn't going to be just checking off a form and signing it anymore. It wasn't even recently, but in terms of getting medical checkups and in terms of taking temperatures and things like that, same for airlines. I think it behooves both the cruise industry and airlines to make everyone feel a lot safer. And clearly that's going to be the norm until we see a vaccine or something come out of this.
I agree.
Yeah. Now, what about Ensemble itself? I mean, how do you think Ensemble will be changing to meet these new challenges?
I think I think every company, doesn't matter whether it's a consortium or an agency or a manufacturer or a law firm or even medical, I think events like this change the way that business is conducted. And it's not always for the worse. It's often a time, I don't want to say of reflection, because reflection is looking back, and at this point we have to look forward, and we really have to more aptly scrutinize how we do things and whether the things that we've done in the past are indeed being done properly, or are there ways that we should do it more efficiently, more cost effectively, but more impactfully. And those are the things that all of us need to be very focused on right now. And at Ensemble, look, every single day we're looking at how can we get the job done that was being done with twice the number of people. And it can be daunting. There are within the company, there were different numbers of people furloughed by different departments. It wasn't just across the board 50%. It was done based on how we felt we could continue to best serve our members and still remain relevant. But the reality is 2020 for an organization like us and for most of our members, 2020 is a write-off. Now it's the case of how do we steady that, and how do we put in place meaningful programs that are going to result in the sales and a return to business as we once knew it, or whatever that new normal is. How can we be effective and profitable in delivering that experience?
Now, is there anything else you want to get out to both Ensemble members and even travel advisors as a whole about what you think is going to happen, or what you think we need at this time?
A lot of this can be taken as very negative, and I can certainly appreciate that. I have a daughter who now owns my former business, and the doors are closed, and some staff have been furloughed, and some are working from home, and it's tough. And it's we're not alone in this. I realize that's just lip service. I think it's an understatement to say that we are here to help. We are advocating as best possible. It is the time that if you're going to embark on training or participating in things, whether it's Travel Institute, don't use the time or don't waste the time, but rather use it to your advantage. Stay in touch with customers, and we have to believe that there is a need for travel that is beyond the spoken word. The experiences, the memories, these are things that you can't buy. Well, you can buy it if you buy travel, but you can't, what I mean. The reality here is we've got a fabulous product. We've got a changed world. We'll see massive social reform, I expect, from this. Hopefully we'll see some political reform. And I really feel strongly that if we keep our senses about us, and if we make the right decisions, difficult decisions, I think that those who survive will be even stronger. And I think that the value of an agent, of an advisor, is far more significant today than it has ever been before. Even post 9/11 days, while OTAs will always have a place, I think that the importance and the sustainability of our core model, which is the travel advisor and travel agencies, is as strong as it's ever been. I really do.
Well said, David. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk about what Ensemble is doing and where we're hopefully heading as we emerge from this crisis, whether it's a few months down the line or possibly later. I agree with you. There will always be travel advisors. It's, once again, we thought 9/11 was something until this one, but this is a different new normal, as they say, and hopefully we'll emerge from this stronger and better than ever.
Really appreciate your time, James. Thank you. Stay well.
I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.